Let's first and foremost bless and salute everyone that is present and also those who will come across this video at a later date. With the greeting of Ahaya Bahasham Yeshaya Barak Atham, which is Ahaya in the name of Christ, bless you all. Today marks the beginning of another edition of the GOCC Sabbath lesson. Now, of course, Elder Rakash Yar wasn't able to make today's Sabbath lesson, but he will be back if it's according to the Most High's will next week. All right? So we're going to go through a few things according to the Bible concerning a lot of the events that have been taking place in the earth. Mainly what's taking place in the United States. I know a lot of you are aware of what's pretty much been taking over the media outlets by storm. The story of the shooting that happened in Ferguson, Missouri. All right. Now we're going to take it from a different spin. Of course, we had the radio show this past Wednesday, Elder Rakash Yar, along with Randy Short and the brothers who do the GOCC Blog Talk International, in which they spoke in depth about the topic of what's going on in the United States as well as across the world with the militarization of the police. But the spin we're going to take today with the Sabbath lesson is we're going to try to take it back into history. For those of our brothers and sisters who are not familiar with our teachings, what we believe, and those who may be at a loss as far as what's taking place in the earth with all of these shootings and murders of what the earth would call African Americans, Hispanics, what they would call minorities, but according to the Bible are the children of Israel. So we're going to take you back in history to show you from empire to empire, from kingdom to kingdom, how there have always been an assault on the children of Israel. You're going to find out through this lesson that your plight, your destruction, your poverty, and the situations that you're facing in the United States are not new to your history. This have always taken place and have been recorded by our forefathers in the Bible. So we're going to take you all the way back to the beginning and show you how this leads up to our time. All right? Now, once again, this is dedicated mainly to those who are not familiar with what we teach concerning our history, who we are as a people, so on and so forth. You're going to find out that we are, in fact, according to the Bible, are the children of Israel serving captivity throughout the four corners of the earth. And what you're facing in America as far as your last captivity, which we will identify according to the Bible, is not the first time you have been in this sort of captivity or this circumstance. All right? We're going to show you that your captivity as a nation goes all the way back to the land which the Bible calls the land of Mitzrayim, which we know today as ancient Egypt. And that was the first place in which we as a nation served captivity. And you're going to see that there are many similarities according to the Bible of what we faced in Egypt and what we face today in America. And from Egypt, we're going to take it from there, okay, all the way up until modern time. So let's go back to the beginning. And before we get the book of Genesis or the book of Exodus, we're first going to take you to the book of Revelations, the 11th chapter, because it identifies the fact that this modern day captivity that we're facing in America, the land that we call the land of the free, home of the brave, so on and so forth, according to the Bible, is identified as a place which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Revelation chapter 11, we're going to start at verse 18.
Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyed the earth.
Now we're going to read that again, but before we read that verse, Revelations 11 and 18, let's jump up to where it speaks about spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Let's jump up to about around verse, let me see. Let's jump up to about verse, all right. Let's try Revelations 13 and 11. All right, 1 second. Let me get this verse real quick. Let's go back to Revelations 11. All right. And in fact, we're going to read that again because this really gives us some insight as to why the nations are at war with the children of Israel in these last days, where they're profusely trying to engage us and come against us. You're going to find out that soon the world empires of this earth will soon fall. They're at their last end. They're on their last leg. And soon your empire will come. Speaking about the empire of the children of Israel. Okay? And because your empire is soon to come, they have now come together with a plan to eventually exterminate and wipe you out, to prevent you from being able to receive the promises that were given you by your forefathers, or were given to you by the Most High through your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? So let's read that again, Revelations 11 and 18.
Revelations chapter 11, verse 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall...
It says the beast, meaning the empire, because according to the Bible, beasts are empires. That's Daniel, the 7th chapter and the 17th verse. So the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit, speaking about the Roman Empire, shall do what?
Shall make war against them.
Shall make war against them, speaking about the witnesses of the Most High, Judah and Israel. Go ahead.
And shall overcome them, and kill them, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt.
And it states that your body shall lie dead in the midst of the street of the city that is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. You're going to find out that according to the Bible, America is identified as being spiritually Sodom and Egypt. We know that America is at the forefront of pushing the homosexual agenda throughout the four corners of the earth. So for that purpose, the Bible refers to it as spiritually being Sodom. But we're also going to find out, according to the Bible, why it's spiritually called Egypt. The same place that had the children of Israel, or the same people that served captivity in ancient Egypt under great bondage, under the hand of the Pharaoh, are the same people serving captivity today in America. Okay? And really under the same, some of the same circumstances that existed in ancient Egypt. And we're going to show you, according to the Bible, how you got into modern day Egypt. All right? Let's read verse 18 again, Revelations 11 and 18.
Revelations 11 and 18. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged.
So it tells us that the nations were angry. The question is, why are the nations angry? They're angry because they realize that their time is up and that it's now time for you, the children of Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, and those who are serving captivity throughout the four corners of the earth. It's time for you to now rise and receive the kingdom that's coming with Christ. So now the nations are angry. Go ahead.
And that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets.
So now it's time. We're coming into the time in which Christ will return, and a reward will be given to his servants, the prophets. So the Most High servants, the prophets. Go ahead.
And to the saints, and them that fear thy name.
It says, unto the saints and unto them that fear thy name. We're going to identify, according to the Bible, who the saints are. And it's not who they've been teaching you according to modern day religion. The Pope is not a saint. Mother Teresa is not a saint. Those who they have plastered all over your Roman Catholic Church, these are not saints. You're going to find out that according to the Bible, the children of Israel are the saints. And these are the same people that are being murdered in high number throughout the four corners of the earth, mainly in the United States of America. All right, go ahead.
And shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth.
And it tells us that a time will come in which the Most High will destroy them that destroy the earth. So a lot of people ask, what is the remedy for all of the violence, the rape, robbery, murder, pollution, so on and so forth? And the remedy to that issue is to destroy those that destroy the earth. And that's the remedy that's coming with Christ unto this earth. You will not see peace on earth until those who are destroying the earth are bound, put in chains, put into captivity, and the majority of them will suffer their due judgment when Christ returns. Okay? But let's read that verse, Revelations 11:7, where it speaks about Sodom and Egypt. All right, there's one thing I wanted to pull out.
Revelations 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them. And
States he shall make war against them. You're going to find out that this empire is making or has made war or declared war against the children of Israel. And that war is still taking place in the earth today. We're at the tail end of that war. Go ahead.
And shall make war against them.
And shall make war against them. Everything that you're experiencing in America is based on this war that the beast, which is the Roman Empire, and America, which is an extension of the Roman Empire, has set up to fight and destroy the children of Israel. Go ahead.
And shall overcome them and kill them.
It states they will overcome you and kill you, and they're killing us in high number. We just seen an example with this thing that just happened a few weeks ago with Michael Brown. All right, this is all a part of this war that have been taking place since ancient times. The only problem is that back then we had the knowledge of who we were as a people, opposed to today, in which we no longer realize that we're the children of Judah, Ephraim, Issachar, Benjamin, Manasseh, so on and so forth. We believe we're African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, so on and so forth. No one is telling you that you are the children of Israel that the Bible speaks of, and that there's a war, a continual war that have been set against you in the earth. But we're going to bring it out today, and we're going to show you who are the culprits and who have been the culprits since the beginning of time. Go ahead.
Revelations 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt.
We just identified the place which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt according to the Bible. It's speaking about none other than the United States of America. Okay? Just give me 1 second. All right, we're going to switch up the sound. We're going to make sure you all can still hear us and see us nice and clearly. Testing, testing, 1, 2. Before we continue, we want to make sure that you all can still hear us and see us nice and clearly. And when that's established, we're going to continue going into this information. Okay? Let's make sure you all can hear us and see us. Okay, someone says the audio was perfect before, but not now. All right, someone says loud and clear. Someone says they're getting feedback. All right. So what we'll do, we'll continue to use the microphone. Just pass me the microphone. All right, so let's change this back up. Okay. So now let's go back to the beginning of the children of Israel's captivity, the children of Israel's servitude. In the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter. Yep, let's start at verse 1.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob.
So for you brothers and sisters who are out there who may stumble across this video in the future, who may have not heard of the knowledge of being an Israelite, of the knowledge of who you are according to the Bible, those, once again, who the earth may refer to as minorities, are the children of Israel according to the Bible. And what we're reading in the book of Exodus is the history of how you went into the land of Egypt, or how you got into the land of Egypt. All right? So it states that what?
Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt.
So this is the name of the children of Israel which went into Egypt. Now, in modern secular history, they make us believe that our history doesn't go anywhere further than the slave ships, and that our history began in Africa. All right, which is partly true, because you're going to find out that the children of Israel became a nation in the land of Egypt, which is located in Africa. But they make you think that your history only goes back to the transatlantic slave trade, and before then, you were just savages living in the Ivory Coast of Africa. Okay? But you're going to find out that according to the Bible, your history goes back to ancient times. You once existed in the ancient Eastern world. And one of the first captivities you served as a nation was the captivity in the land of Egypt. And this is giving you the history of how our forefathers went into the land of Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 2. Reuben, Simeon, Levi.
You got Reuben, which today would be considered the so-called Aborigines of Australia, along with the Seminole Indians. Okay, that's the tribe of Reuben, which is giving you a quick rundown of the tribes. All right, go ahead.
Simeon.
Simeon, the so-called Dominicans.
Levi.
Levi, the so-called Haitians.
Judah.
Judah, the so-called Negro, so-called African American.
Issachar.
Issachar, the so-called Mexican.
Zebulun.
Zebulun, the so-called Panamanian.
Benjamin.
Benjamin, the so-called Jamaican and West Indian.
Dan.
Dan, which we have went into in past lessons, showing you his history on this side of the world, how he still is roaming around the earth, okay? Calling himself many different titles, dwelling around the Mediterranean islands of the earth, all right? Or the islands around the Mediterranean Sea. Go ahead.
Naphtali,
Naphtali, the so-called Hawaiians, Samoans, and those of the Fiji Islands.
Gad,
Gad, the so-called Native American Indian of North America.
and Asher.
And Asher, the so-called Brazilian, Argentinian, Chilean, Peruvian, Uruguayan, so on and so forth. Those who are what you would call the South American Indians. These make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And once again, your history goes all the way back to the ancient world. You served captivity in ancient Egypt the same way you're serving captivity today in America and throughout the four corners of the earth. Go ahead.
And all the souls which came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already.
So Joseph, the father of the so-called Puerto Ricans and Cubans, was in Egypt already. This is before Jacob and his 70 sons, or 70 souls, walked into the land of Egypt. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 1 verse 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly.
So Joseph, along with his brethren and the original generation that went into the land of Egypt, died off. And it states that we became fruitful and increased as a nation in the land of Egypt. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now
The land became filled with Israelites, similar to how America today is filled with Israelites. Mexico filled with Israelites. South America filled with Israelites. The four corners of the earth filled with Israelites, because it states that we will be scattered from one end of the earth even unto the other. So the place became scattered with Israelites. Go ahead. Or filled with Israelites.
Exodus 1 and 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
So a new king arose to power in the land of ancient Egypt, which knew not our forefather Joseph, which means that he didn't acknowledge all the achievements that Joseph did or accomplished in the land of Egypt. How he saved Egypt from a famine. How he brought much knowledge and wisdom to the land of Egypt. So he didn't acknowledge the works of Joseph. So what did he do?
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
So starting from verse 9, it states that this king came to the realization that we as a nation were more powerful and mightier than the Egyptians based on our population. So he said, come on and let us deal wisely with them. So what are we seeing according to the Bible? We're seeing the Egyptians come together with a council coming from the government, not from some solo hate group in Egypt. This was coming straight from the government to now come down against the children of Israel and to deal wisely with them. Go ahead.
Exodus 1 and 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters.
Let's read verse 10 again.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
So they dealt wisely with us back in ancient Egypt, and they're still dealing wisely with us today. Welfare, the war on drugs, the prison system, the economic system, the educational system. These are all examples of how the nations have come together to deal wisely against us. This is no different than what took place in the land of Egypt. Go ahead.
Come now, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass.
They were afraid of us multiplying, getting larger, in population or getting larger in number. That's what they feared in ancient Egypt. Go ahead.
And it come to pass that when they falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Verse 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
So they began to set over us taskmasters to afflict us with our burdens. When you read the book of Jasher, it tells you how they tricked us into now going and working on projects in the land of Egypt. Okay, building different structures and constructs and cities, so on and so forth. Initially, they would pay us high wages, but through time, the wages got lower and lower until it became servitude, bondage. Okay, go ahead.
Therefore they set up over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
So we built the treasure financial cities of the Pharaoh, which were called Pithom and Ramses. Okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the transatlantic slave trade was not the first time that you served bondage in your history. Your bondage goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, in which you were set with the task of building the treasured cities of the Pharaoh. Okay, they came, they dealt wisely with you. They were afraid of you multiplying and increasing in number. So they came up with a plan to eventually wipe you out. Go ahead.
Exodus 1 and 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied.
But the more they afflicted us, the more we multiplied. And we can bear witness to that today. The more they afflict us, the more they come down on us, the more they try to deal wisely with us, the more we multiply. Go ahead.
The more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
They made us to serve with rigor. They made us to serve under harsh conditions. Go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage.
They made our lives bitter with hard bondage. So what so-called African American, Hispanic, Native Indian, so on and so forth, cannot identify with what we're reading in the book of Exodus, the first chapter. Okay? Growing as a population, and then all of a sudden someone comes up with a plan to make your life miserable. Have you working on jobs and working in situations in which it's almost life-threatening. Okay? Serving and working under harsh conditions. And then it also states that what?
Verse 14, and they made their lives bitter.
It states they made our lives bitter with harsh bondage. Okay? So your history goes back before the transatlantic slave trade. You served slavery back in ancient Egypt under the same circumstances that you're experiencing today in America. Okay, go ahead.
In mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. Verse 15, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. Verse 16, and he said, when ye do the office of the midwife to the Hebrew woman, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
So now you see what they call today a eugenics program being enacted against the children of Israel in the land of ancient Egypt. So their final solution was to do what? Begin to kill the Israelite men, children. This is no different than what they're doing in the United States of America with the slaughtering of our children, abortions at a high number in the black and Hispanic community. Okay? Violence. They got drugs in our community, alcohol. All these different things are used as a plan to wipe out the children of Israel. Now, as we stated before, this is not new. This is not the first time this has ever taken place in history. You experienced these same things in ancient Egypt. You are the same people who served bondage under the hand of Pharaoh and were delivered by the Most High under the hand of his servant Moses. You are those same people. Okay? So now we're going to take you through a few more captivities of our history to show you how this leads up to our modern time. Okay? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. Because the Bible is not just a book of spirituality, a book of laws. It's also a book of history, and it contains the history of the children of Israel. All right, we showed you the history of how you served bondage in ancient Egypt. Now we're going to show you the history of how you went from many different empires serving captivity, and how what we're going through in America today is the height of our captivity, which means we're at the end of our servitude. Okay? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, and the first verse.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters.
So in the first year of Belshazzar, which is about 555 BC, you had Daniel the prophet who was having dreams and visions upon his bed. So after he had these dreams and these visions, he awoke and he began to write the sum of the matters. He began to record everything that he had been shown and that had been revealed unto him through these dreams. Go ahead.
Verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my visions by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea.
It tells us that the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. It tells us in Revelations that the four angels are holding the four winds, which represent destruction, that will soon be let loose to go through the four corners of the earth. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Four great beasts, which we will identify as empires, came up from the sea, one greater than the other. The sea, according to the book of Revelations, represents nations, kindreds, and tongues. Let's get that real quick in the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, and let's try the 8th verse.
Revelation 17,
Let's start at verse 8.
verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit.
Now, this is speaking about the Roman Empire. Let's jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called the chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth.
The waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth. This is no different than the waters or the sea that we seen in the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, and the 2nd verse. Go ahead.
Are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
Multitudes, peoples, nations, and tongues. That's what the sea represents. Go back to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. All right, go ahead. Let's start where we left off in verse 3.
Daniel 7 and 3. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion.
So the first beast was like a lion. Now the beast it's referring to here is the Babylonian Empire. the Babylonian Empire. This is another empire or kingdom in which the children of Israel served. So your history goes back way deeper than slave ships, then roots, then Kuta Kinte, so on and so forth. Your history goes back to the ancient old world. You were in Babylon serving captivity. And you experienced some of the same hell that you're experiencing in America. Go ahead.
The first was like a lion, and had eagle wings. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
Now, we're not going to go through the full breakdown of each reference in line. We have a lesson dedicated strictly to Daniel, the 7th chapter, in our academy. We're just going to go through the empires and identify the empires and show you how our history leading up until now is involved in captivity, pain, suffering, persecution, like we're seeing today. All right, go ahead.
Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear.
It says, another beast, a second, like unto a bear. Now, before we move on, let's jump to the book of Jeremiah, the 25th chapter, and let's speak about some of the things that took place with the children of Israel in the land of Babylon. Let's start at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 8.
Jeremiah 25 and 8. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, my servant, and I will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof.
So because the children of Israel became hard-headed and stiff-necked and decided that we didn't want to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, who delivered us out of the same captivity we read earlier in the land of Egypt, he decided to give us over into the hand of the nations to serve captivity and bondage. And one of the captivities we served was the Babylonian captivity. We're now reading the history of how this came about. Go ahead.
Jeremiah 25 and 9. Behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon my servant, and I will bring them against this land and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them.
And that's a key point. The Most High said that he would bring Nebuchadnezzar and the families of the north against us. Okay? So we sometimes look and we like to blame the other nations. We like to blame the other governments and what they're doing. But we must realize that it's because of our disobedience that the Most High brought Nebuchadnezzar against us. All right? And it's for the same purpose that we went into captivity in the Americas. Let's hold this and let's get Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. It's all for the same purpose. Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So all of these curses will overcome you and take you. All right? Let's jump down to verse 46.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder.
These curses that are mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, would be upon you for a sign and a wonder.
and upon thy seed forever.
and upon your seed forever. So we, the seed of Israel, are still experiencing the curses that was placed upon us for the disobedience of our forefathers. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Most High thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
Because we did not serve the Most High power with joyfulness and gladness and want of all things.
Therefore, thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Most High shall ascend against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things.
So this is an example of what we're experiencing in our captivity. The nations that are over us have control over our water supply, they have control over our food supply, and they have control over our raiment, our clothing supply. All right? This is all based on the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, based on the disobedience of our forefathers. Go ahead.
Verse 49. No, sorry. Verse 48. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee.
Until he have destroyed you. And you're being destroyed as we speak. Why is this taking place? Because of what we're reading in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Because you disobeyed the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Or better yet, your forefathers disobeyed the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And we continue in our ignorance to disobey the laws, statutes, and commandments, and we're suffering because of it. Okay? So let's jump back to the book of Jeremiah, the 25th chapter, and let's read the 9th verse.
Jeremiah 25 and 9. Behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon my servant, and I will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof.
The Most High brought the Babylonians against us. Go ahead.
And against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them.
And he says he will utterly destroy them. Go ahead.
And make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and a perpetual desolation. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, and the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, and the sound of the milestones, and the light of the candle. Verse 11. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
So we as a nation were forced to serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. That's another captivity that the children of Israel experienced in the old world. Long before the transatlantic slave trade, the slave ships bringing you to America, the Caribbean islands, so on and so forth, you served captivity in the ancient world. And you caught hell and destruction and persecution and pain in the ancient world. The same way you're catching hell, destruction, pain, and persecution in America. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 12. And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon.
So after the captivity was up, what happened? The Most High punished the king of Babylon. And guess what? When our captivity is up, the Most High will punish the king of modern-day Babylon, which is also known as modern-day Sodom and Egypt, along with all the other kings and rulers of the earth that have come against the children of Israel. Okay, go ahead. There's nothing new under the sun. Go ahead.
I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity, and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it a perpetual desolation.
So we're starting to see this on a low level in the Americas, how judgment is being set forth. The same time they're coming against us, the Most High is setting up their judgment. Okay, he's sending storms, he's sending all types of things on America that will eventually cause its destruction. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah hath prophesied against all the nations.
So everything that Jeremiah prophesied in his record, in the day of his prophecy against the ancient Babylon, the Most High brought against the king of Babylon along with the inhabitants of Babylon. The same thing will happen to modern day Babylon, which is America, for the destruction that they've, or the persecution that they have perpetrated against the children of Israel. Okay? Let's go back to Daniel, the 7th chapter. Let's go to another empire that the children of Israel served. Go ahead.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. After this I behold, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon its... Verse 5. And behold, another beast, the second like a bear.
There was another beast like a bear, which according to prophecy and history is identifying the Medo-Persian Empire. Go ahead.
And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
This is a prophecy concerning the Medo-Persian Empire, another place in which we served captivity. Go ahead.
Verse 6. After this I behold, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon its back, upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl.
So this next beast, the third beast, which the children of Israel would serve, was like a leopard. And it had what?
And it had, which had upon its back 4 wings of a fowl.
And it had 4 wings of a fowl upon his back. Go ahead.
The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
And it had 4 heads representing the 4 generals that came from the original horn, which was Alexander the Greek. Go ahead.
Verse 7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong.
So we also serve captivity in ancient Greece. And we caught hell, destruction, pain, and persecution amongst the ancient Grecians. And you can read this history for those who have what is called a King James Version Apocrypha in the book of Maccabees. First Maccabees, the 1st chapter, and in fact, we're going to read a little bit of the book of Maccabees to identify some of the things we went through in ancient Greece. Go ahead.
The first book of Maccabees, chapter 1. And it happened that after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
So now we're reading Bible history of how the Medes, which was the second kingdom upon the earth to come against the children of Israel, was taken down by the king of the Greeks, the first king of Grecia, which was Alexander the Great, according to modern history, but we call him Alexander the Greek. And it says that what?
Who came out of the land of Shittim,
Who came out of the land of Kittim, go ahead.
had smitten Darius, king of the Persians.
And he smit Darius, the king of the Persian and Medes. So he would be the next on earth to enslave and destroy the children of Israel. Go ahead.
That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Verse 2.
So he was the first over Greece, meaning the first Idumean to rule over Greece. Because there were many kings in the land of Greece before Alexander the Greek. He was the first Idumean king to rule in the land of Greece. And with Alexander the Greek came with this earth cause white supremacy. This is the first instance in history of white supremacy on the earth. All right? What we're saying is not racism, this is just truth. It's the first time in which the Idumeans came out of their original habitation and eventually went throughout the four corners of the earth, conquering other nations and gaining rulership and supremacy over the earth. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth.
And it states he went through to the ends of the earth. This was the first Idumean, or what you would call today, European empire, to go through the ends of the earth and conquer other nations in a cycle or in a attempt to rule over the earth. Go ahead.
And took spoils of many nations.
And he took the spoils of many nations. Yes, our people served under Alexander the Greek, and a historical figure. You can go into a library, any history book, anywhere on this earth, and you can read about Alexander the Greek. And he's written of in the Bible. Okay? And it's written of how we served under his empire. Go ahead.
Insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
The earth was quiet before him. No one could take down Alexander the Greek. He was powerful. Go ahead.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive.
Let's jump down to Antiochus Epiphanes and some of the atrocities.
Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves.
So it took Alexander 12 years to conquer the earth. Go ahead. The then known world. And then all those that were with him from his youth, his four generals, eventually came and took supremacy over the earth. You had the Ptolemies, the Seleucids. You had Ptolemy, Seleucid, Lysimachus, and Cassandra. These were the four generals under Alexander the Greek. Go ahead.
And after his death, they put crowns upon themselves. And so did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth.
So when they began to rule, evils were multiplied in the earth. Speaking about the European Idumean rulership. Go ahead.
Chapter 10, verse 10. And they came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
So 137 years after Alexander came Antiochus Epiphanes. Go ahead.
In those days went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
So yes, you think your sellout pastors and preachers are something new to us in America. Well, this existed in ancient history. In the Grecian Empire, we had the same thing. All right, those same demonic spirits that operate today with your Reverend Jesse Jackson, your Al Sharptons, operated with some of the leaders in ancient Israel in past times. And I was shocked when I seen that with this new case with Michael Brown, that many of our people have woken up and have become wise to the guiles and the wiles of your Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Okay, you got many people who are speaking up and stating that they are sellouts, that they're not doing anything to help the people out there in Missouri, so on and so forth. Why? Because like the men in ancient Greece who served under the ancient Grecian Empire, amongst the Israelites, you had many wicked men who sold out the people and were persuaded to go and serve the Greeks. Okay, go ahead.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying,
So they persuaded many. Okay, they went out, did the marches, and did all the good talks and fair speeches, no justice, no peace, so on and so forth. Okay, go ahead.
saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
Their whole plan was to make a covenant with the nations that were round about us. Go ahead.
For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Because since we separated ourselves from these nations, we've had much sorrow. We lost our benefits, okay, our finances, so on and so forth. We lost everything we've had because we're separated from the nations. This is what the wicked rulers were preaching in Israel or in Greece in ancient times, okay? We're still in Israel, but we were under the captivity of the Grecians. Okay, go ahead.
For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
So you had many people who agreed and were persuaded by these wicked rulers. The same way our people are persuaded by the wicked rulers, pastors, preachers, and black leaders today for the same exact purpose, to join the heathen that are round about us, to make a covenant with them to eventually destroy our people. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
So some of the people were so wicked that they went to the king and asked for licenses to partake in the wicked practices of the heathen. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem.
So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem. Now, one thing about the ancient Grecian gymnasiums is that they didn't just go there to do exercise. Okay? They went to the gymnasium, and part of the custom was to exercise and perform activities in the nude. Okay, without clothing. This was part of the practices of the ancient Greeks. So when you look at some of the things they do in the Olympics, wrestling, racing, and all those different things they did it in the nude. Okay? Go ahead. He's going to get something?
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the custom of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Our people were sold to do mischief. They were persuaded by their leaders to go against the Most High, to go against the law, statutes, and commandments, to serve the other nations. At this time, the nation we were serving chiefly were the Grecians. All right? And this is no different than what's taking place with us today in modern day America. All right? Being persuaded by our leaders to go against the Most High, to go against the law, statutes, and commandments, and to sell out, to be a part of what they consider the American dream, to have a piece in the American pie. All right? Okay? What you got?
Linking with the gymnasium. Joel 3 and verse 2. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them for my people and for my heritage Israel, who they have scattered amongst the nations and parted my land. Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people.
So now it's going into the judgment that's going to take place with the nations. As I mentioned earlier, the same time that they're coming against us, they're militarizing the police, They have the new Ebola vaccine scare, or the new Ebola virus scare, which will lead to a Ebola vaccine, which will really be the cause of a outbreak. Okay? They're doing all these things to come against the children of Israel. But while they're doing it, the Most High have a plan also. He has all of the armies of the earth gathering together in the valley of Jehoshaphat to eventually meet their death and their destruction. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot.
It states they have given a boy for a harlot. These are things that took place with the children of Israel in captivity. Okay, selling a boy for a harlot, meaning a prostitute. They document this in the movie Goodbye, Uncle Tom, in which young boys were taken and they were groomed to be homosexuals for homosexual slave owners. Go ahead.
And have sold a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine.
And sold a girl for wine. So our young girls were also sold in captivity for wine and other resources during slavery. All of this history is documented in the Bible. You who are suffering today, those who are out there marching, screaming no justice, no peace, you are suffering for a reason. The police are shooting you down in the streets for a reason. It is not the reason that you think, okay? It's way deeper than what you think is taking place in this earth. It's because you are the children of Israel. You're serving the captivity of your forefathers, and eventually you will be freed. Christ will soon come to free you. The nations understand this, and therefore they have a plan to stop you from your eventual uprising. Okay, go ahead. Let's go back to the book of Maccabees.
Maccabees chapter 1. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 15. And they made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Verse 16. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots, and with elephants, and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof.
Let's jump to verse 37.
Verse 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary.
So it tells you that they shed innocent blood on every side. They shed innocent blood on every side. They were killing us in cold blood, killing innocent people in ancient Israel. Same way they're still killing innocent people today. Once again, this is nothing new. This is a part of your history. Okay, go ahead.
And defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers.
So it states that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. So because of the pain and destruction and all the hell that was taking place in Israel under the hands of the Grecians, our people began to flee from the land of Jerusalem. They began to flee from the land of Jerusalem when we were suffering some of the same things under the Roman Empire. Christ stated that when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, flee to the mountains. So time and time after history in which things are taking place, in which we're being persecuted in high number, and there's a military attack against our people, we took the initiative to do what was natural and flee from danger. Okay, and the Most High is calling us to do the same exact thing in these last days. Flee. Okay, go ahead.
It says, and Jerusalem was made a habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her.
So those that were born in Jerusalem, it states that the land became strange to them. It changed before their eyes, based on the laws, the practices, and the customs that were being brought in by the Gentiles. Go ahead.
Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feast days were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, that everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
We sent forth a decree that all people should leave their customs, their practices, and the customs of their forefathers, and to follow the laws, principles, and customs of the Greeks. Okay, to call themselves Antiochians. Same way today you leave the customs of your forefathers to partake in the American dream and you call yourselves Americans. Go ahead.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
So they consented to what?
To his religion.
So they consented to Antiochus's religion. Go ahead.
And sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
They sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbaths. So for these purposes, our people received destruction from on high, eventually. The same way many of our people today will receive destruction from on high. Why? Because they've adopted the same principles, mindsets, and customs that were being enacted on the Israelites under the Grecian captivity. Profaning the Sabbath, sacrificing unto idols, worshiping Gentile holidays, eating unclean meats, so on and so forth. Okay, this is all a part of Israelite history. Okay, let's go back to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. Let's get the last empire, and after that, let's go to Genesis 25.
Daniel 7:7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had a great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces.
This is now speaking about the Roman Empire, which was diverse from all the other beasts that came before it, and it devoured and brake in pieces, meaning it broke down other nations and colonized these other nations. Okay, he broke down and colonized. That's what it means when it says he brake and devoured in pieces. Go ahead.
And stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all beasts and that were before it. And it had 10 horns. Verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, they came up among them another little horn.
So even after the Roman Empire, which was the fourth beast on earth, there came up another little horn. You're going to find out that this little horn is none other than America, prophesied in the Bible to rule in the last days. Go ahead.
Before whom they were 3 of the first horns plucked.
For whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked. Out of the 10 horns of Rome, 3 were used in order to build America: France, Spain, and Great Britain. Those are the 3 horns which eventually would be used to create the one little horn, which is America. Go ahead.
It says, before whom they were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man.
So now this is speaking about America. So these are all empires which would eventually rule over the children of Israel. Now before we go back to Daniel 7 and go any further, we're going to show you what ancient war that began in ancient times would continue and pick up in those last 2 empires, speaking about the Grecian and Roman Empire. Because there was a time in which the forefather of these empires did not have a land of inheritance, neither did he have rulership over the earth. But it was prophesied that eventually he would gain rulership. And once he gained rulership, he would carry out a plan to destroy the children of Israel, or better yet, to destroy his own brother Jacob. Let's go to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter and the 25th verse. As a matter of fact, starting at verse 20. Genesis 25 and 20.
Genesis 25 and 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, of Paddan, the sister of Laban the Syrian. Verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
So this is giving us the history of Jacob and Esau. Jacob being the father of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, who was our forefather. And Esau, who is the father of what the Bible calls the Edomites, but today are called the Caucasians, Europeans, so on and so forth. Okay, go ahead.
And the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus?
So Rebekah is asking, if I'm now able to have children and bear children after being barren, meaning she was fruitless, could not bring forth children, why am I thus? Why am I going through so much pain with these two children? Go ahead.
And she went to inquire of the Most High. And the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So it was revealed unto Rebekah that 2 nations were in her womb. Go ahead.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
And that 2 manner of people shall be separated from her bowels. This was the first time ever in history in which 2 nations and 2 separate manner of people came out of one woman's womb. Go ahead.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people. Jacob would be stronger than Esau. Go ahead.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
And the elder shall serve the younger. Esau the elder, who came out first, would be responsible for serving the younger. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, they were twins in her womb.
There were twins in her womb. So what is this showing you? That from the birth of Esau and Jacob, there was a war between the two. There was a battle between the two. What was the battle about? About who would be the ruler of the earth. And we're going to show you, according to the Bible, that even though Esau is in power as we speak, Jacob's kingdom is soon coming to follow right after Esau's kingdom is up. Okay, let's get 2 Ezra 6 and 9.
Second Ezra 6 and 9. I'm going to start at verse 8. And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world.
The Bible tells us that Esau is the end of the world. So when the disciples asked Christ, which shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Whose end are they speaking about? They're speaking about the end of Esau's world. Go ahead.
For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So no soon as Esau's kingdom falls, Jacob's kingdom would be the one to follow after. Those who are in power and rulership understand this prophecy, and they're trying to stop you, Jacob, from obtaining your promise, your kingdom. All right, back to Genesis 25.
Genesis 25, verse 25. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment.
So the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment. This is the birth of the so-called European, who the Bible calls Edom or Esau. He first came out red all over like a hairy garment. As we identified in past lessons, there's no such thing as white people on earth. All right? If we can give you an example, my shirt is white. The turban or the mitre on my head is white. No one in the earth is the color of my shirt or my mitre. Okay? You have people who are different shades of red, and you have others who are different shades of brown. There's no such thing as white people on earth. And the Bible identifies the first who they would call today on the earth white person as Esau, who came out red all over like an hairy garment. Go ahead.
And they called his name Esau. Verse 26, and after that came his brother out.
So after that came out Jacob. And as you can see, Jacob's complexion and physical attributes are not described. Why? Because he looked like everyone else that was born on the earth up until this time. Go ahead.
And his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was
Why did his hand take hold of Esau's heel? We just read it in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, and the 9th verse. Go ahead.
And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents.
Now I was giving you the attributes of Esau and Jacob. Esau was known for being a hunter. Jacob was known for staying at home. Go ahead.
And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
Why did Rebekah love Jacob? Because she received the prophecy and the vision from the Most High that Jacob would be the child of promise. Go ahead.
And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
So because he sought to eat this red pottage, which contained rare meat with blood, another attribute of Edom, he was therefore, or Esau, he was therefore called Edom, which means red. Go ahead.
And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way.
So Esau sold his birthright for a morsel of meat to his brother Jacob. Later on, he would bring this up to his father Isaac after finding out that Jacob stole his blessing. And he stated that, is he not rightly called Jacob? For he have tricked me these 2 times. First he stole the blessing, and then first he stole the birthright, and eventually he would take the blessing. And afterwards Esau would make a proclamation against his brother Jacob. Genesis 27:41.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him.
So it tells you that Esau hated Jacob based on the blessing in which Jacob received. And Esau is no surprise to tell you that he still hates you unto this day. He have created secret societies, councils. He have created an educational system, a financial system, a religious system to keep you mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually under arrest, to show forth his hatred to his brother Jacob. And that hatred is now being displayed on so many levels in this earth, and which will eventually lead to what the Bible calls Jacob's trouble, which is their last stand against Jacob before Jacob is delivered. Go ahead.
And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And one of the greatest judgments that's going to be brought against the children of Edom is based on the violence against their brother Jacob. Let's get Obadiah, the 10th the first chapter and the 10th verse.
Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee.
So for Esau's violence against his brother Jacob shall shame cover him. He shall be covered in shame when his judgment comes. Go ahead.
And thou shalt be cut off forever. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem.
Now here's the thing, going back to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, and even Genesis, the 27th chapter. During that time, Esau did not have an empire. He was not ruling the earth. So what do you think happened once he got supremacy over the earth, under the Greeks, under the Romans, and eventually under America? He would now bring forth a plan and a scheme to eventually eradicate us off the earth. No different than what the Egyptians came up with to eventually eradicate us off the earth, or to attempt to eradicate us off the earth. Okay? Let's go back to the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, where it tells us that once he gives rulership.
Should I pull up the blessing of Esau?
Yeah.
Genesis 27 and 39. And Isaac his father, verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. And by the sword shalt thou live.
And by the sword shalt thou live. The greatest weapons, technology, and warfare devices that you can name on this earth have been created under the empire of Edom. Okay, going back to the Grecian Empire. Why? Because it was promised by Isaac, the father of Esau, that by his sword would he live. And when you look at the videos of what's going on in the States, you see the Black Panther Party out there trying to physically get into it with the police and throwing cocktails, so on and so forth. There's no way you're going to defeat this particular empire with brute force. It's impossible. Why? Because he was given the blessing of the sword. Okay? Everything from satellites to missiles to guns, whatever you can name, he has within his particular power. Why? Because that was his blessing. So there's no possible way you're going to physically take down this empire. It will only happen through the power of Christ. I know it's a hard pill for a lot of you to swallow because a lot of you don't believe in Christ. A lot of you think this book is a fairy tale. A lot of you believe that this is just some comic book that you just pull out to get a good word from Jesus, so on and so forth. But the Bible is real. The history in the Bible is real. The laws in the Bible is real. The prophecies are real. And what's real is the fact that Christ is going to come back and he's going to be the one to take down this last empire. Okay? He's going to be the one to save us out of this captivity. That's what's real. Go ahead.
Genesis 27, verse 42. And these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah.
Let's get to when he breaks the yoke from off his neck.
Okay. Verse 40. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break the yoke from off thy neck.
So eventually he would gain dominion of the earth and break the yoke of Jacob from off his neck. Go ahead.
Verse 41.
When did that begin? With the empire of Alexander the Greek. When they first got their rulership of the earth, and eventually they gained power over their brother Jacob. And then eventually the Roman Empire, and now we got America. and the European powers which are ruling over the children of Jacob. Go ahead.
Verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Everything you're seeing in the earth today is based off what we're reading in the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter. Esau made a promise to slay his brother Jacob, and he's carrying out that promise. He's trying to wipe you off of the earth, and he's using these events like the one we're seeing in Ferguson, Missouri, to eventually engage you, to bring military against you, to have that last stand, that last war against Jacob, to eventually attempt to wipe you off the face of the earth. Okay? How will you be delivered? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. How will we be delivered out of this captivity? Will it be through the philosophies of the Al Sharpton and the Jesse Jackson to try to vote and buy black and try to vote their way into the system and get their way into the system to get better rights? Will it be the way of the Black Panthers, which are looking to fight and engage the military power and the military might of this empire? Will those methods work? Let's see according to the Bible.
Daniel 7 and verse 9. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garments was as white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool.
So Daniel also seen a vision of the Ancient of Days, the Most High Power, whose garment was white as snow, and it states that his hair was like white wool. There's only one people in the earth who exhibit the characteristic of white woolly hair, or of woolly hair in general. Okay, and that's the so-called African Americans, Hispanics, Jamaicans, West Indians, so on and so forth, what they consider minorities and Negroes in this earth. We have that physical attribute of woolly hair. The Most High has the same exact attribute. Okay, go ahead.
His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And judgment was set, and the books were opened.
So judgment was set and the books were opened. Go ahead.
I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they that had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
So all of the beasts we read in Daniel, the 7th chapter, beginning with the Babylon Empire all the way down to Greece. These empires, even though they lost their supremacy of the earth, their lives were prolonged. They still had some level of government power in the earth. When you look at Babylon, which is Iraq, they still have their own government power in the earth. When you look at Persia, which is Iran, even though they don't have supremacy over the earth, they still have their own governmental structure and power. When you look at Greece, the location of ancient Greece, even though they're not ruling in supremacy over the earth, they still have some level of governmental power in the earth. Okay? It's the Roman Empire and its extension, America, which still have rulership and power over the earth. Go ahead.
Revelation 7 and 13. I saw the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven.
So the Son of Man, Christ, is coming with the clouds of heaven. Go ahead.
And came to the Ancient of Days.
He came to the Ancient of Days. This is after he was crucified. He came to the Ancient of Days with the clouds of heaven. Speaking about the chariots, or what this world calls UFOs. Go ahead.
And they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, languages should serve him.
So all people will serve Christ. This is the same Christ that will deliver the children of Israel out of their captivity. Go ahead.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion.
And his dominion is an everlasting dominion. The powers of this earth understand this. They understand that those who will rule with Christ will rule with an everlasting dominion. And they don't want that to take place. They're trying to kill you and wipe you off the face of the earth. But one thing they don't realize is the fact that the Bible speaks about what is called a resurrection. Even if they killed every single Israelite off of the face of the earth, all those who are in Christ will rise at his coming. As the Bible tells us, the dead in Christ shall rise first. So you can kill every individual Israelite on the face of the earth, and we will still resurrect to come and take down your empire. That's the power of the Most High in Christ. Okay, go ahead.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my
So Christ's kingdom will not be destroyed. Like Babylon, like Persia, like Greece, like Rome will eventually, like America will be eventually. It will last forever. Go ahead.
I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them, and that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts are four, and four kings which shall arise out of the earth.
So the beasts are four kings or kingdoms, empires that will arise out of the earth. That's the interpretation of the vision. Go ahead.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom.
But the saints, which we will identify before this is out, we're almost finished, will take the kingdom and do what?
And possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
So we will possess the kingdom, or those who are counted saints will possess the kingdom forever, even forever and forever. Okay? So no longer will we be shot down in the streets like dogs. No longer will we be victims of your vaccination programs. No more welfare, no more prisons, no more destroyed educational system, no more being on the bottom of the economic food chain, no more being at the living in projects and having drug-infested neighborhoods, no more violence, no more things in which we are suffering in our modern-day captivities. Okay? All of that will be done with the kingdom of Christ. And we will live like this forever, even forever and forever. No more captivity. No more serving the other nations and building their kingdoms and their empires. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the four beasts, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass.
Now he's going in depth of the Roman Empire. That's the dreadful beast. So now let's go to the book of Psalms 148 and 14, and we're going to identify who these saints are, who will possess the kingdom forever, even forever and forever. Okay? Psalms 148:14.
Psalms 148 and 14. He also exalted the horn of his people.
He also exalted the horn of his people. Horn represents light or power. Go ahead.
The praise of all his saints.
The praise of all his saints. So his saints are synonymous with his people. Go ahead.
Even of the children of Israel.
Even of who?
Of the children of Israel.
Even of the children of Israel. The same people we identified earlier as the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians, and those who are suffering persecution and pain throughout the four corners of the earth. You are the saints of the Most High Power. Those of you who acknowledge Christ, keep the testimony of Christ, the faith of Christ, and keep his commandments. Okay? So all of the things you're seeing in the earth are people being shot down in the streets like we've just seen recently, and all of the atrocities that are taking place are nothing new. It's no shock, it's no surprise when you go into the Bible and read about Israelite history. This has always been perpetrated against us, and it will continue to happen until we're delivered by our Lord and Savior Christ. Okay? So we must do like the Bible states, watch as well as pray. And I see a lot of people are focusing just on watching and just looking, and a lot of people are just focusing on the physical aspect of what's taking place, but no one is looking at the spiritual, historical aspect. No one's looking back and asking, why is this continuously happening to our people? Could it be that we're cursed by the Most High God? Could it be that we're suffering due to our sins, our continual transgressions, and all the wickedness that we're enacting and perpetrating in this earth? Okay? It's time to start asking these questions. It's time to come back to the Most High Power. It's time to come back to Christ. So with that, I want to say bless you all and shalom. Hopefully that brought forth edification and understanding. And what we'll do at this moment, we'll answer about 5 minutes of questions, and then we'll close out and allow Brother and Elder Gabar to come in with his law segment on the Sabbath. Okay? Give me 1 second.